Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, friends.
So at this time, we're going to ask everybody to remain muted. If you have a question, feel free to type in a question into the chat panel. My name's Gus. I'll be the moderator for today's escrow panel. I am your Hemet Events Committee Chair. Today with us, we have with Corner Escrow, Lorri Travis. Escrow 321, we have Miss Tracey Moore. Generations Escrow, we have Alicia Hernandez. Hemet Escrow, we have Nathalie Schmeiss. Is that how you say it?
Yes, and Alicia's here with me too, Alicia Martin.
Oh, hey, Alicia.
Hi.
And with Heritage Escrow, we have Carol Henke.
Hello, everybody. And Chanel Jones. She's my mobile home queen.
So should we wait a couple minutes for some of the stragglers to get started, or should we just go ahead and kick this thing off?
Whichever you like, Gus.
All right. Well, then let's go ahead and get this started. First topic is going to go to Lorri. Can you give us some clarification and explanation on HOA upfront fees and touch on solar / hero programs on a home?
Okay, on the HOA upfront fees, the seller is required to pay for the documents. So we normally contact a seller and ask them for the upfront money that is required by the homeowners association. Some homeowners associations do not require upfront money. Some of them do. So we reach out to the seller to get the funds so that we can get them ordered, since it is a contingency of the offer to get those approved by the buyer within their contingency period. So that's what we do for the HOA documents. And then for the solar hero, I always reach out directly to the solar company and see if they have been contacted by the seller, telling them that they were selling their property, so that we can obtain the paperwork to do a transfer of the solar if we're transferring. Otherwise, sometimes the solar is paid off.
All righty. Does anybody have anything to add to that topic? All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next question. This one goes to Ms. Tracey. Wire fraud and escrow tax forms. What can you tell us about those?
Oh, tons. Wire fraud is huge. It has everyday attempts on it. So that's why we like to contact your buyers directly, so we can directly email them wiring instructions. And they are obviously welcome to call us and confirm the wiring instructions verbally. We never accept email wire instructions. Some people get a little upset about that sometimes, like broker wiring instructions, you know, why can't we wire, you know, it's me, that kind of thing. But that's when the fraud happens, is when it gets translated through the email. Those hackers out there just turn it around and put their information in. So it's out there every day, every minute. We just need to be very, very, very careful when we're dealing with wire transfers. And then tax forms, is there questions on tax forms, or?
It doesn't specify what the question on the tax forms is, so maybe.
That could go 1,000 directions.
Are there specific required escrow tax forms for every file?
Yes. The 1099 certification and the certification for no reporting, we need to determine by the questions that the seller is asked, whether we need to 1099 them or not, for the IRS. And then for the state, the 593 form is a new form this year, and it's required to be turned into the state on every transaction, whether there's withholding or not. So the sellers have to thoroughly complete the 3-page new form now.
All right.
Hi, Tracey. I have a question that kind of would go back with that, that will probably help people. Who do you suggest that sellers or buyers talk to in regards to these forms?
Well, they can start with us. If they need to do any calculations on the page 2, which would be the old 593E form, they should talk to their accountant.
Not their realtor, right?
Well, the realtor and the escrow officer should not be giving financial advice whatsoever. So if it's not a cut and dry thing that we can kind of walk them through, then they really need to contact their financial advisor, their CPA accountant.
All right. Moving on to the next question. This one is for Miss Alicia. Can you please tell us what the importance of returning escrow docs in promptly? Alicia, are you there? Oh, you're muted. Lisa, can you unmute her?
Can you hear me?
There you go.
Okay, it's very important to turn in the paperwork, especially the statement of information, so that we can forward it on to the title company and they can clear any issues that might arise as far as judgments, liens, things like that.
Yes, especially right now with everything with COVID, right?
Exactly.
What are we seeing as far as timeframes with other things like judgments and other required docs from the county as far as turnaround times during this COVID period?
It actually depends on what type of lien it is. For example, if it's a child support lien, it can take a few days to several weeks. The same thing with IRS liens. Some response their turnaround time is pretty quick, and other ones, they just drag their feet.
So I think we can all agree, get these docs into escrow as soon as we can, right?
Correct, and even the purchase agreement indicates on page 3 with the acknowledgement that that can be part of the addendums or advisories. So if you're taking a listing, it would be a good idea just to include your statement of information in there so that we can clear that title sooner than when we get down to recording, because otherwise we might have some surprises.
All right. Next question is for Nathalie. Trusts and what documentation is necessary?
Hello, everybody. If we're dealing with the original trustee, we're just going to need them to sign a certification of trust. But if we're dealing with successor trustees, we're going to need a complete copy of the trust, any amendments, revocations, anything that pertains to that trust, as well as copies of any death certificates. If any of our original trustees are deceased, we need to get that to title.
And there's also a follow-up question on this. Power of attorneys, are they compatible with the trust?
You can't use a power of attorney with the trust.
All righty. Next question is Ms. Carol. Mobile homes and the importance of titling certificate information.
We go to Chanel on the mobile home questions because I don't do that. Oh,
It's really important to have either a copy certificate of title or at least the data included in that certificate of title completed in the purchase agreement, or like I said, a copy of the certificate of title sent to the listing agent so that when you open escrow, you can do a title search of the mobile home to determine that our seller on the contract matches the owner of that certificate title of that mobile home. It's not necessarily required that they have the original of the certificate of title and the registration card, because we can order duplicates through the escrow process, but it is important for the information to be given to escrow Sorry about that.
I thought I muted that thing.
But it is important to have the information given to escrow so we can, determine that the seller matches the owner on title. HCD was backed up with COVID for a couple months. They basically weren't doing any processing at all. But in May, things kind of opened back up a little bit, and they started processing things pretty quickly. So we're looking okay now for that processing time.
Do you know if HCD is open again for walk-ins, or is it strictly mail-in right now?
I do not believe they're open for walk-ins, no.
Nathalie, do you have some input on that?
Alrighty.
Hey, can I chime in on that?
Sorry, hang on for just a sec. Alicia's gonna answer a couple questions about mobiles. Let me answer. So, ask away.
Yesterday I called HCD and they do take in, you have to call them to schedule an appointment to do any HCD transfers.
Okay, so it's kind of like by an appointment only for walk-ins.
Yes. It's only by appointment only that they're taking people.
Okay, that's good to know. Nathalie, did you say your Alicia had something to add?
No. Okay, no, we'll wait. We'll wait till the next question. That's cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything to add on the mobile home questions? All right. This one will go back to Carol. Solar processing and timelines. What can you tell us about what's going on right now with solar processing?
It depends on the solar company actually, but we're seeing anywhere from 3-4 day turnarounds to up to 10 day. It just depends on which solar company you're dealing with.
Okay. Are these strictly for lease transfers or with heroes for solar?
Well, Hero is, you're gonna have to pay off a Hero loan unless there's not a loan involved and or the buyer agrees to take it on as a cash transaction. And we have the seller and they click on it. They have to pay $50 up front to get the payoff, and then they forward it to us. And I think it's about a 3-day turnaround on those as well.
Okay, it's not too bad right now.
Yeah.
And if any of you guys have anything to add to any of these topics as they're being answered, please feel free to chime in. Next question. This one goes to Nathalie and Alicia. Advice, escrow, if sellers are foreign, divorced, dead, etc. What's the importance?
Again, sorry.
Give us some advice as far as advising escrow if the sellers are foreign, divorced, dead, etc. What's the importance of informing you guys?
Okay, foreign sellers, do they have an ITIN? The transaction may be subject to withholding for FERPTA. Divorced, if they're already divorced, okay, but if they're in the process, are we gonna have any issues with the sellers signing documents, executing deeds? Deceased, if we've got joint tenants on title, we're gonna need death cert so we can do affidavits of death. There's a number of different things that could come into play with those different scenarios. We just basically, when we're dealing with our sellers, if the agents know anything up front, just let us know a little bit, especially if we have divorce situations. Are we going to have a touchy situation? What's happening? Communication's key.
Yes, totally agree with that. Especially when it's a messy divorce situation, those can be a pain.
Yeah. All
right. Next question is for Miss Alicia. Tax documents, 1099s, 593s. What information do you have for us on those?
They are required on every sale transaction. They are to be completed by the seller. That's actually when a seller calls me and asks me for any type of advice on them. I tell them that it is very important for them to contact their CPA or tax accountant, that I am not specialized in the subject, and the best thing that I can do for them is to refer them to their CPA or tax accountant.
Sorry, I'm a little distracted by the chat window. Looks like some of the questions that people were typing in kind of disappeared. Is anybody keeping track of what's being asked in the chat room so we could address those later?
I am, Gus.
Okay, awesome.
Do you want me to wait and leave it for the Q&A at the end, or do you want me to butt in with questions that are pertaining to the subject that officer is speaking on?
Either way, I just want to make sure that questions being asked aren't missed, because it looks like some of the things that I saw in my chat window earlier have disappeared. So
Okay.
okay, so
So there is a question about HOA docs. Lorri went over that. That was the first question.
Okay.
And it's asking, is it possible for escrow to keep the agent informed on the HOA docs and if the upfront fee is paid?
You can chime in. Yes, absolutely. We can follow up and let them know. I mean, we try to, within the first 24 hours of an escrow opening, find out who that HOA is, if they're going to require money up front, and report that back to the listing agent. When we get a link to pay them, we'll forward it to the listing agent and or seller if we have an email address for them to pay that. And then we're going to calendar that and follow up every day until it's paid and let everything know that.
all right. Were there any other questions from chat you wanted to ask right now, Lisa?
No, the others can wait until we're finished with the questions, because I think some of them we'll cover.
Okay, very good. So next one, I believe we're back to Tracey, right? What's different with escrow for manufactured homes in parks? Is she muted?
Sorry. I unmuted. So you didn't hear any of that, right?
Nope.
So the difference is if it's in a park and they don't own the land whatsoever, basically, to keep it simple, you're selling a car. So you're transferring title through the Department of Housing instead of the Department of Motor Vehicles. So there's no IRS or state tax docs required, no are required. Sometimes we get asked to sign a QS, but it's not required because it's not real estate. It's literally a vehicle.
And no title insurance.
No title insurance. And of course, you deal with the park like you would deal with the homeowners association. Sometimes they require the buyer be approved. You know, they might have a transfer fee, you know, space rent, utilities, that kind of thing. And if it's on land, then you have title insurance, a deed. If it's not on a permanent foundation, you transfer the mobile home just like you would if it was in a park.
Alrighty. And this next question goes back to Lorri. Are there any delays with HCD for closings right now due to COVID?
Lorri, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Okay, so no, I haven't had any problems with them having any COVID issues right now. A lot of them are working from their home, so it's actually being handled pretty good. They've even been personally calling me from their home to ask questions, and so they don't have to return the packages to us. So it's been pretty nice, actually. So I don't see any problems going on now.
Gus, there's a question in the chat, and probably all the escrow officers can chime in, but has there been any impact from COVID on the escrow process and closings, if any?
Not a big delay unless like the HCD, they're back up and going. But if we have to deal with anybody else, there's some counties that were closing early and stuff like that. That would be the delay. But as far as the escrow process, everything's fine. Status quo.
It's not us.
Looks like Genevieve has started sharing her screen.
Mm-hmm. Weird.
All right.
I got it.
Yeah, for sure.
Not sure how
I
that
was
happens.
trying to figure out a way to send you an email and I didn't have the email address because I didn't print it. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I did have a question, so I was going to ask it at the end since I didn't type it in. So.
Okay, we'll have a Q&A. We just have 2 more questions left, and then people will be able to chime in with some questions. So the next question, I'm going to give all of you an opportunity to answer. The first one is, what's one thing about escrow you wish more agents knew? And we'll start with Lorri.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I just want them to understand how consuming escrows are. And sometimes there's difficult, complicated escrows. So try to be more understanding of each transaction for time periods to get things done. Because that difficult escrow does take longer to work on. So I know everybody wants to get everything closed right away. But if they can be a little more understanding on difficult transactions, that would be great.
All righty. Ms. Tracey?
I think they should probably know how hard all these ladies work. It gets grueling up to, 12, 14, 16-hour days.
Yes.
We do our best to get everything closed, on time, make everybody happy. So these ladies genuinely work their rears off.
Yes, I could attest to that.
Mm-hmm.
Alicia?
I think my biggest pet peeve is when the agents don't put on the contract the acceptance date and then they put a 30-day close of escrow from acceptance date. It's like having to guess, okay, so what is it? I can't calculate. I can guess on a closing date, but if you don't put an acceptance date, how am I supposed to guess on 30 days from the acceptance date? That's my biggest pet peeve. I know it's something that, but it makes a big difference because especially if you have time frames.
Right. Sounded like somebody else was going to chime in. Nope. All right, Nathalie and Alicia.
Well, I'll speak for myself, just basically what we are as an escrow holder and what we don't or are not responsible for. We don't want to take on the agent's duties. We've got enough to do on our desk. So it would be great if we can just have everybody do what they're supposed to do and let us do what we do best. And we're going to get it closed for you, no doubt. But we just can't take on all those other roles. Because sometimes, we get asked to do things and we just can't. We can't do it. And there's a reason. So, I agree.
I think we're all shaking our heads on that one.
All righty, and Carol?
Okay, I would say, what's this question again? The agents, but we wish they knew more.
Yeah.
We wish they knew that this button, although 90% of the time it works, 10% of the time it does not work. Just playing, but yeah, no, we honestly, I work with a lot of seasoned agents, so I don't have a lot of issues with things they don't understand. I'm really blessed, I guess. I get along great with all my agents, and there's usually, if there's something that comes up that we're not supposed to really be doing, I just let them know that, and they'll work on it for us. So Chanel, you might want to add to that.
I think the agents do a great job. Something that I think that would be helpful, and maybe the agents could kind of chime in on this part. I don't know if you realize, in the last 2 months or 3 months, the CAR department whipped out an addendum for COVID in like 2.2 seconds. Whipped our addendum for solar. Can we get an addendum for solar that says if the seller's paid it or is making payments, is the buyer assuming it? What the heck's happening with the solar?
Yeah, that's a good
That's
point.
a good one.
Mhm.
That's a good one. Yeah.
All right, we'll stick with you on this question. Advantages of using an independent escrow company.
Independents, I think, are the best. They are not tied to a title company or a broker. I think they
Truly neutral.
truly neutral company. Yes.
Nathalie?
I'm agreeing. I mean, we have DBO oversight. We are watched very carefully. We have liquidity requirements. We're there, and they watch and make sure we do everything we're supposed to do for the protection of the customer. It's important.
Alicia? Anything to add, Alicia?
Oh, sorry. What was your question again?
Advantages of using an independent escrow company.
We work for our agents. We strictly work, I think the customer service that we provide is, we earn their trust, I must say.
Tracey?
I agree with all the ladies. We're heavily regulated, so we have to be above board on everything we do. And we're not tied to anyone, so, and we're highly insured.
Lorri?
I basically agree with everything they just said.
Safe and secure.
Yes.
All right, well, that does it for my list of questions. Let's go ahead and start adding the questions from the chat.
So this might be a good follow-in question. Is there any best practices that the escrow officers would like agents to adopt to help the escrow process along? Maybe a little loaded question, but that's the one we got.
I think providing HOA information up front would be very important.
Also, contact information for buyer, seller, everybody's contact information, commission amounts, addresses, emails, cell numbers.
I'm going to chime in because I know you're very spoiled with me, Carol, and Alicia, whom I both work with. When I send an opening email, I include everybody, so that's all there. But I know, and I include the other agent to try and help other agents learn that that's a good thing to practice.
Sincerely beautiful. Tiffany.
Yes, love, yeah.
Anybody else have anything to add to that question?
Also, if there's an HOA too, super helpful.
And solar.
And solar, yes.
And mobile home numbers.
Yes,
Absolutely.
mobile home numbers.
Mobile home numbers as in the decal numbers?
That
Yes.
is
Yes.
correct. Decal numbers.
Serial number.
I'll
Either
try-
one.
It's also great if they would let us know what is their best or preferred method of communication. A phone call or email.
Yeah.
Or not to call them at all.
Good luck.
No, we love our agents and we're thankful for them and their business.
Gus, back to the manufactured homes for just a second. When we're dealing with manufactured homes on real property and not 433s involved, we do need that allocation of purchase price.
Yeah,
That's important.
agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Next
have a
question,
question.
Gus.
I have a question. So I'm new agent. I only have 1 year and 4 months in real estate. So what is your advice for new agents when we open escrow? Because we are new agents, so we don't have a lot of experience with transaction. So what is your advice for us?
Talk a lot to your escrow officer.
Yeah.
We'll hold your hands. Anybody?
Ask questions, honestly, because, you know, as cliche as it is, the only dumb question is the one you don't ask. Don't be afraid. We all had to start somewhere, so please ask.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Lisa, do we have any more questions from the chat?
Yep, so there is a question. I'm not sure if it was directed to somebody specific, but it says, is it possible to get an update from escrow to know if escrow paperwork has been turned in and by what party?
For me personally, I try to do like a weekly status, and it's just a quick email to all the agents involved and the lender and letting them know, hey, we don't have paperwork, we do have paperwork, what's outstanding, and ask the lender for a status.
I personally try every Friday to send out a status report, letting the agents and TC what we're missing and what we have received.
You guys are really organized. That's awesome.
I know.
Hey, I even color coordinate.
Okay. And again, it's back to the question thing. Just don't, you can send an email, give us a call. Do you have my party's paperwork in? We can check that for you. I mean, I'd love to be able to update everybody, but I can't always do that, but we'll be happy to answer that question.
I also think that it's helpful if the real estate agents alert their buyers and or sellers that they will be receiving a package from escrow in, within a week of opening the escrow, so that they're prepared for receiving that paperwork and to sign and return it. Oftentimes I have buyers or sellers say, oh yeah, we received that UPS package from you and we just thought it was our copies. It's like I think that helps if the agents can advise their clients that they do need to be proactive to send their paperwork back, and they should expect it.
Okay, next question. It's regarding mobile homes in parks and property taxes. Many ask, why do they have to pay when they do not own the real estate?
Because you can transfer your registration fees, you can convert them to local property tax. So then you don't pay an annual registration fee every year.
Right, and if the current owner elected to do that at some point in time, once they transfer from that annual registration to local property tax, you can't go back. It's stuck that way. Most people do it as a way of avoiding the sales tax at close of escrow. So if you're not on local property tax and you have that annual registration, the buyer has to pay a sales tax just like they would on a car at the closing. But the way to avoid that is to transfer to local property tax. You waive that one-time sales tax, but then you're stuck in local property tax for the remainder of the property ownership. You can't ever go back.
And you can find that information on your mobile home title search if it's on local property taxes or if it's on if it has sales tax.
Anybody else have anything to add to that question?
I have a good idea for people that might not know this, but on the tax roll, if you go into the tax collector's tax roll, they do have a place that's called View Valuation Information, and under the legal description, they put the mobile home information in there. Sometimes they have lots of it in there, sometimes they have a little bit in there, but that's where you can find mobile home information. So if you don't have it from your agents in the beginning, go in there and you can look in there. You as an agent can go into the tax collector's website and look under that section, and you can find the decal number or the serial number there. Sometimes they have the make, sometimes they have the year, but that's a place to find it. And that means usually when they have that information, it is on local property tax.
There's a follow-up question to this. They're asking, they said, I thought tax is paid by the buyer, not the seller on mobile homes, if it is on DMV records.
It is usually the buyer.
Okay, are we ready
don't
for the
know.
next question? Or go ahead.
All I was going to say, I don't know if this would help the agents or not, but when they're looking at the title that their seller has, in the upper right-hand corner, it will have a decal number. And if that decal starts with the letter L, that means local property tax. It's on the tax rolls. Any other letter is going to be in lieu taxation, meaning they pay annual registration. So if you see the letter L on the decal, it's on the tax rolls and it's subject to property taxes, which means, and this is big because a lot of times when we get mobiles in parks and everybody wants to close as soon as possible, if it's on the tax rolls, we have to order a tax clearance certificate. And depending on where the tax collector is in getting those out, sometimes that can slow us down a bit.
On
So
the tax
clearance.
on the tax clearance, it states that it can take up to 45 days to receive a conditional tax clearance or a tax clearance.
I think there was some confusion on the sales tax versus property tax. If the mobile home is on in lieu tax, there's a sales tax, just like when you buy anything, cars, whatever at the store, there's a sales tax based on the area that the mobile home's located. Or if it's on in lieu tax, you have the option to transfer it to local property tax. That's for property tax in lieu of registration fee. So sales tax and or property tax, they're separate.
Thank you, Tracy. I think there was confusion on that too.
Yeah.
Next question. When agents are required to complete a seller's net sheet, what is the best way to gather the cost information?
Ask your escrow officer for an estimated net sheet.
That's what they usually do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't ask us to do it 30 minutes before you have a listing appointment, please. Or at month end.
Next question. As a listing agent, should we have the seller start HOA process before listing, or does it need to be done when the escrow opens?
Usually when the escrow opens. Because sometimes they require the buyer's information.
The answer about the net sheet, the escrow officers just said to ask them, but does someone want to repeat that for them? Someone said they didn't hear the answer about net sheets.
Just ask your escrow officer to do an
Escrow.
escrow for you. Mhm.
Yep. But not before month end.
Or 15 minutes before the listing appointment.
And not 15 minutes before the listing appointment.
Yes.
Guess that's all the questions so far in the chat.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions that they had for any of these wonderful escrow officers we have?
Thank you, Gus. What a sweetheart.
All right. Well, I guess if there's no other questions, anybody else have anything to add? Lisa, Tiffany?
No, just that there's some amazingly talented women, all women, female escrow officers here. And I want to thank you so much for taking the hour out of your days, because I know the market's going nuts. And so I know all 6 or 7 of you are insanely packed right now and jammed. So thank you for taking your time to help all of us. I have had the pleasure to work with a few of you, and it's been awesome.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Oh, Molly wants to know if she can make a comment. Go ahead, Molly.
Okay, thanks, Gus. Hey, guys, just a little comment I wanted to make for some of the agents that are listening is that escrow officers are amazing, and we all know that, but their assistants are pretty amazing too.
Yes, they are.
And so sometimes your officer might be busy and you may be handed to their assistant to answer your question. And know that these people are extremely competent and knowledgeable. Don't let the word assistant make you think that they are not super knowledgeable about escrow. They know what's going on in the files. They're really incredible too. So just give some assistant love there. Because I know sometimes when I have worked in escrow in the past, sometimes people think when, oh, I'm so sorry, you know, escrow officer can't take your call, but their assistant's available. They think that that's second-rate service, and they are really terrific people too.
Yes, agree.
Amen.
We couldn't do it without them.
Someone's asking if this is recorded. I believe it is, right?
Uh-oh.
Danny's question. You got to read that.
Danny.
What is your
Am I
biggest-
supposed to read that out loud? I'll let Gus read it.
Sure. What's your biggest pet peeve about title? Bring it, ladies. Let's see.
When they walk in at month end.
Without
The reps. Hey, and you have a gazillion things to do, and they want to stand there and chit chat, and you're just like looking at them, smiling, and in your eyes you have the look of, I got work on my hands. I love you guys.
What about biggest pet peeve of lenders?
I would say my biggest pet peeve is that the title reps come around and they ask, can I do anything for you today? But what I really like is if when we have an issue with title, that you could step in and help to get it solved, because that's when we need you.
Amen. Power to the Pete. That's a good one.
Any other title pet peeves? Going once? Going twice? All right, I heard somebody say lender pet peeves. Let's go ahead.
We need another hour.
I was just going to say that. We need a lot longer.
Having to do redundant work. And I mean, when you've already sent them something and you have to send it again because they don't go through their emails to check for it.
Yep.
Gus or Wendy, can you guys let everyone know where they can access this if they want to rewatch it?
I'll be putting it on YouTube and Facebook, the recording, not later on today, tomorrow at the latest.
Perfect.
All right. So, okay.
Do it.
Don't forget our girls, bilingual generations, Alicia. She's your bilingual girl.
We do bilingual too.
So on behalf of the Hemet Events Committee, I wanted to thank all of you for attending today's Zoom. And once again, let me thank Lorri Travis with Corner Escrow, Tracey Moore with Escrow 321, Alicia Hernandez with Generations Escrow, Nathalie Schmeiss with Hemet Escrow,
And Alicia.
and Alicia. And Carol Henke with Heritage Escrow, and your guest again?
Chanel Jones.
And Tamara.
Thanks, guys. That was fun.
Yes, thank you, guys.
All righty, everybody. Thank you so much for attending.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all for attending.